தங்க நகை விற்று பணம் பெற மேக்ஸ் கோல்ட் கேஷ் ஃபார் கோல்ட் கான்டாக்ட் 04445454545 லிங்க் இன் டிஸ்கிரிப்ஷன்.
Well, yes, I was very pleasantly surprised that in this contempt of court proceedings, so many people all across the country, including a lot of people from Tamil Nadu, were supporting me. If you threaten a witness that if you depose against me, I will kill you, that is also interference with the administration of justice. The reason why I am also filing a writ petition is because, you see, this is an original criminal conviction by the Supreme Court.
So we could not come to a point that Mr. Prashant is ready to pay rupee 1 or he is neither denying to pay rupee 1 as fine.
Yes, I am ready to pay that rupee 1 as a fine, but I will pay it under protest, indicating very clearly that I am not accepting the judgment. I will be challenging that judgment. It was an incorrect judgment. Everybody has a right to say that the Supreme Court has passed an incorrect judgment. Everybody has a right to say that the Ayodhya judgment was totally wrong. So I have a right to say that this conviction for contempt is totally wrong.
Did this change happen right now? I know even at the time of 2017 and 2018, you had the same mind of not sending him to 6 months jail.
No, this change has happened because I now feel that maybe his complaints, his original complaints against caste discrimination were not looked at properly by judges. But what he did is enough to send anybody to jail. What he did was totally unconscionable. Any other person doing this kind of thing should be sent to jail.
Hello everyone, in this special episode we have activist and lawyer Mr. Prashant Bhushan with us. Hello Mr. Prashant, it's a pleasure to host you here.
You're welcome, it's a pleasure.
Mr. Prashant, I just wanted to ask during the trial of contempt of court, people in Tamil Nadu, the activists in Tamil Nadu were ragely supporting you, conducting online forums, online discussions, the Zoom meetings and so on. Even the social media trendings from Tamil Nadu. Did that gain your attention? What's your take on it?
Well, yes, I was very pleasantly surprised that in this contempt of court proceedings, so many people all across the country, including a lot of people from Tamil Nadu, were supporting me. And therefore, the effect of this contempt proceedings was exactly the opposite of what the Supreme Court had intended. They probably intended that this contempt proceedings would have a chilling effect on people speaking up or speaking out about what is going on in the Supreme Court, how the Supreme Court is behaving or not behaving, etc. But fortunately, it did not have that effect. It had exactly the opposite effect, and more people came out and spoke out and started discussing the state of the Supreme Court, what has been done or not been done by the Supreme Court in the last 6 years, what the role of Justice Arun Mishra had been. There are so many articles which have come out discussing the role and the judicial legacy of Justice Arun Mishra. All this would probably not have happened had it not been for these contempt proceedings against me.
Okay. I'm really interested to know your state of mind during the trial of contempt of court pertaining to you. Were you more tense, filled with more anxiety? What was your state of mind?
Well, initially I was a little tense, and certainly some members of my family were also tense because they felt that it was a mala fide proceeding. Judge had also been chosen for that reason, and the old case had also been picked out for that reason. And therefore, a lot of people felt that they are likely to send me to jail and bar me from practice, etc. But as I have told many people that my father was very relaxed about it, and he has always told me and taught me to look the devil in the eye, see the worst that can happen, and then see whether you can accept that or not. So I knew that the worst that could happen was that they could send me to jail for 6 months and bar me from practicing in the Supreme Court for maybe a year or two. So he told me that, look, what's the big deal about it? I mean, your grandparents were in jail during the independence movement for more than a year. Maybe do some important cases in some high courts and also go around the country and around the world talking about what is going on in India, what has been going on in the Supreme Court, etc. Once I saw that, I became quite relaxed about it. And then I was not at all worried about what they might do.
There has been wide discussion over social media. What is the contempt of court? Where do you draw the line? How to measure that? So, do you have any different yardstick for different cases? How do you measure that? There have been instances of many contempt of court cases, but some are being convicted and some are being not convicted. Some are being sentenced to fine, some are being not sentenced to fine. But how to how to measure that? What is the yardstick for it?
Yes, this is a serious problem. You see, unfortunately, there is no yardstick for judging what is scandalizing the court and lowering the authority of the court. It can be totally arbitrary. And the court's behavior has also been quite arbitrary in this. And that is why we feel that this part of the contempt law, that is scandalizing the court or lowering the authority of the court, is totally against public interest and it should be removed. You see, in any democracy, people have the right to say what they feel about the functioning of any institution, including the Supreme Court. Because if there is a problem in the Supreme Court, how will it be corrected unless people are able to discuss it and say what they feel is wrong or right with it, what reforms need to be made? See, contempt of court has two parts, civil contempt and criminal contempt. Civil contempt is disobedience of court's orders. There is no problem with that. Certainly, court's orders should be obeyed and there should be punishment for those who disobey court's orders. The second is criminal contempt. Now, criminal contempt is also divided into two parts. One is interfering with court proceedings or interfering with the administration of justice. So if you dance on the judge's table and don't allow him to proceed, that is interference with court proceedings. Okay. If you threaten a judge that I will kill you if you decide against me or against so and so, that's also interference with the administration of justice. If you threaten a witness that if you depose against me, I will kill you, that is also interference with the administration of justice. That should also be punishable. There is no problem with that either. The problem is with scandalizing the court and lowering the authority of the court. Now, this is a jurisdiction which is not defined. Any criticism of the court or a judge can be considered to be scandalizing, as was the case in my case. My tweets were only an honest expression of my opinion about the functioning or lack of functioning of the Supreme Court. Now, if that is going to be treated as contempt, that is very, very dangerous in any democracy. Secondly, this is a jurisdiction in which judges act in their own cause. They are the accuser, they are the prosecutor, and they are the judge. And that is why this scandalizing the court has been eliminated from most civilized countries in the world. India is perhaps the only civilized country which is still continuing with it, and it has a colonial origin when judges were considered to be representatives of the king, and therefore this was introduced that you cannot criticize the king if you criticize the king, but it has no place in a democracy, and that is why we had challenged it. Unfortunately, that petition was also sent before Justice Arun Mishra. Therefore, we had to withdraw that petition, and we are now permitted to file it in some high court, not in the Supreme Court.
I wanted to understand the context of contempt of court pertaining to because the Supreme Court directed you to pay a fine of ₹1, which is very, very, very nominal and it is easy to payable. But keeping in mind that Mr. Prashant should be punished at any cost, the amount may vary from ₹1 or 100 or 1000, but he should be punished at any cost. So how to understand this? How do you explain this?
So probably at the end they felt that giving me any jail punishment or doing anything more drastic would cause greater damage to the court than it would cause to me, because by this time already there had been so much public outcry and public discussion about this that they realized that the original intention, which was to have a chilling effect against any kind of criticism of the court, that effect had not happened. In fact, the opposite had happened. This had provoked a much greater discussion, more frank discussion, more trenchant criticism of the court than had happened before this contempt case.
I am said that you are filing a review petition or a writ petition against the order which was imposed on you. Did that mean you are not ready to pay the rupee 1, or how to understand it?
No, I am filing the review petition and the writ petition in any case. I'll be paying that review before the 15th under protest. That does not mean, the fact that I pay that 1 rupee does not mean that I am accepting the judgment. Of course, I am not accepting the judgment, but I am paying it under protest because they've given me 1 month's time. My review petition will not be decided, or my writ petition will not be decided before that. The reason why I am also filing a writ petition is because, you see, this is an original criminal conviction by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has held in several cases that at least one appeal against a criminal conviction is a fundamental right of citizens. Now, because there is no appeal provided against this, because this is an original conviction by the Supreme Court itself, and there is no appeal against an order of the Supreme Court, therefore we are saying that you either amend your rules to provide for an intra-court appeal, that is, appeal to a larger bench in the Supreme Court, or you treat the review petition also as an appeal which will be listed in court before a different bench. Otherwise, it will violate my fundamental rights to appeal against an original conviction by a court.
So we could not come to a point that Mr. Prashant is ready to pay rupee 1, or he is neither denying to pay rupee 1 as fine.
Yes, I am ready to pay that rupee 1 as a fine, but I'll pay it under protest, indicating very clearly that I am not accepting the judgment. I'll be challenging that judgment.
I know people who stood by you in social media were discussing widely about this issue. I know they were saying that if Prashant accepted to pay rupee 1 as a fine, this will directly imply that he himself accept as it is a mistake and it is a contempt of court. Do you find so? So what's your take on it?
No, certainly not. You see, even suppose they had not given me any option, suppose they had said that, all right, you will be sent to jail for 3 months. Now, I would have had to go to jail. That doesn't mean that I was accepting the judgment. I would still be protesting against the judgment. I would still be filing my review petition or a writ petition. And even if they dismiss the review petition and the writ petition, that does not mean that I accept that judgment. I mean, in a way, I have to accept the sentence, but I am fully within my right to say that that sentence and that conviction is wrong. It was an incorrect judgment. Everybody has a right to say that the Supreme Court has passed an incorrect judgment. Everybody has a right to say that the Ayodhya judgment was totally wrong. Everybody has a right to say that the Rafale judgment was totally wrong. So I have a right to say that this conviction for contempt is totally wrong.
Attorney General K.K. Venugopal stand on Supreme Court, he told that Supreme Court should not punish Mr. Prashant. That Prashant was shocked about the stand of Mr. K.K. Venugopal, or you were expecting the words from Mr. K.K. Venugopal?
No, I was pleasantly surprised to see his stand, and I was very happy about it, because after a long time we saw an Attorney General standing up as a independent constitutional authority and not saying what the government wanted him to say. Even he might have done, but I was so happy to find that he stood up as an independent constitutional authority.
So Prashant, you are a senior advocate, you know all the process which have been held at various courts. I just really wanted to know, question the sudden listing of 11-year-old case which was imposed against you. I just wanted to know how the listing process works in courts, because in social media often there will be more talks that the important case which are more important to people are not listed as earlier. but the cases which are important politically, which are the cases which are important to the governments, are listed as earlier as possible. So I just really want to know how the listing process works. Do they have any portfolios, some hierarchy orders? How do they maintain it?
Yes, yes. This listing of this old case against me was totally improper. It was not in line with the normal rules of the Supreme Court, because normally these final hearing cases are listed in a terminal list, then they come according to their order, etc. This case was suddenly picked out and listed before a special bench, obviously on the orders of the Chief Justice. This was totally out of line. It was very surprising, and it was against the rules.
Okay, but how do the listing works? Can you please explain us? That's been a big question.
No, that's also very arbitrary. You see, unfortunately, no rules are being followed in listing of cases, etc. It's all very arbitrary. Unfortunately, it's all very arbitrary, and therefore this also needs to be streamlined, rationalized, and made put in order.
You've been discussing about the reformation in judiciary. My question is when to start, where to start, and whom to start it?
So there are many reforms which are required. One is that the judiciary needs to be accessible to the common people. Today, unfortunately, common people cannot even access the judiciary because they do not have money to engage lawyers. And that is why that Gram Nyalaya Act was passed. To create simplified courts which people could access without lawyers, where the civil procedure and the criminal procedure code need not be rigidly followed, and therefore people could go to court without lawyers, at least for their ordinary simple problems. But that has not been effectuated. Hardly any Gram Nyayalayas are functioning across the country. Second problem is delay. Cases take a long time to be decided. Therefore, we need more judges, we need more competent judges. That brings us to the problem of appointment of judges. We need to have a proper, independent, transparent judicial appointments commission, which lays down a proper criteria for selecting judges, and thereafter goes about selecting them in a rational manner and with some transparency also. Unfortunately, today the system is very, very, at least for the higher judiciary, it is very arbitrary. If you ask any Chief Justice today, these selections are supposed to be made by a collegium of senior judges of the Supreme Court. If you ask them, look, how do you select judges? They have not laid down any criteria. They have not laid down how they will judge people on the basis of that criteria. They will tell you, we look at competence and we look at integrity. If you ask them, well, why are these the only two qualities which are required in a judge? What about judicial temperament? What about their adherence to the principles of the Constitution? What about their understanding of and sensitivity towards the problems of the common people in our country? They will say, well, we hadn't thought of that, etc. So they need to first think through what are the qualities required in a judge, lay down that criteria, thereafter have some rational method for judging various candidates on that criteria, thereafter publish the short list of the candidates whom they have shortlisted so that the people can say something about them. For example, recently Justice Arun Mishra's brother has been appointed a judge of the Madhya Pradesh High Court. He was, apart from being underage, if you look at his social media posts, he was communal. He doesn't subscribe to the principles of the Constitution, principles of secularism, which are a basic structure of the Constitution. If his name had come out earlier that he is being proposed to be appointed, people would have pointed this out. That look, he is unfit for appointment because he doesn't subscribe to secularism at all. So therefore, we need to reform this whole system.
Having said the reformation in judiciary, earlier you welcomed the Supreme Court's verdict on contempt of court pertaining to Justice Kernan. Right now he offered his hand, he supported you in the contempt of court pertinent against you. My question is, do you stand corrected? Where do you draw the line between contempt of court of Justice Karnan and the contempt of court against Mr. Prashant Bhushan?
So the contempt of court case against Justice Karnan was very different from the case against me. In his case, the charge against him was not merely of making scandalous or scurrilous allegations against judges. I didn't make any scandalous or scurrilous allegations against judges either. But more importantly, that by itself, to my mind, would not have been a reason for hauling him up for contempt. But what he did in addition to that was that he passed orders purporting to be judicial orders as a High Court judge, ordering the arrest of Supreme Court judges who were trying his case, ordering them to be brought before him, etc. So he was clearly interfering with the administration of justice.
Okay.
Now, even then, I feel that perhaps he should not have been sent to jail, because his original complaint, which was that he was being abused and he was being victimized for being a Dalit, those complaints perhaps they were ignored by various chief justices, and therefore perhaps he lost his balance and started saying all kinds of things, making all kinds of wild allegations against judges and passing these wild orders. And that is why he was ultimately convicted and sent to prison. Perhaps he should not have been sent to prison, though his case was clear contempt of court, clear interference with the administration of justice.
Okay, but you differ from sending him to jail for 6 months, right? So you differ from that point.
Yes, perhaps he should not have been sent to jail.
Okay. Did this change happen right now? I know even at the time of 2017 and 2018, you had the same mind of not sending him to 6 months jail.
No, this change has happened because I now feel that maybe his complaints, his original complaints against caste discrimination were not looked at properly by judges.
Okay.
But what he did is enough to send anybody to jail. What he did was totally unconscionable. Any other person doing this kind of thing should be sent to jail, in my view.
You were constantly fighting over the Rafael case over social media and in the Supreme Court. Even Mr. N. Ram, who belongs to Hindu, had many exclusive evidence and a lot more. Still, you can't make it in Supreme Court. So what made it? So where do you lack?
Yes, that is a totally unconscionable verdict because they relied upon some sealed cover notes given by the government to the court, which contained all kinds of falsehoods. The sealed cover said that the CAG audit of Rafael had been done, it had been given to the PSC, it had been made public. That turned out to be totally false. All kinds of false things were fed to them, which were not even shown to us. And on that basis, they decided against a totally unconscionable verdict. And this, the former Chief Justice, Justice Gogoi, who was heading that bench, he had that sexual harassment case before that. And therefore, the government had some evidence against him. And the government thereafter promoted him or appointed him to the Raj Sabha, etc. soon thereafter. So therefore, that verdict is riddled with absolute nonsense, I would say. It's a nonsensical verdict, unfortunately.
During the 2G verdict, you coined as the 2G verdict is a shame. No, my question is, O.P. Shaini literally mentioned that I was waiting for so many days and so many months, but CBI miserably failed to produce evidence. So, do you know what is the reason for it, and how do you see this issue?
See, in the 2G case, there is no doubt whatsoever that criminal offences had been committed. That all kinds of offences under the Prevention of Corruption Act had been committed by granting these 2G licenses to these people. Now, unfortunately, because of the long delay, because of the behavior of the CBI during that prosecution, etc., because of big lawyers being brought up by the accused and so on, and perhaps because of some problems with the magistrate also, those 2G cases seem to have almost collapsed towards the end, and nobody seems to have really been sentenced. That is very, very unfortunate. And that just goes to show that our criminal justice system is such that if the accused people are very powerful, if they have big lawyers at their command, it's very, very difficult for them to be eventually convicted and punished in our criminal justice system.
But you still believing in the amount of 1,76,000 rupees, crore rupees?
No, that amount may not have been correct, but certainly it was a huge amount. A loss caused to the government because of the manner in which that 2G licenses. It is not popcorn that you give first come, first serve. These licenses were worth tens of thousands of crores. How can the government say that we will give it like popcorn, first come, first serve? Ridiculous. That was absolutely unconscionable what the government did at that time.
Right now, CBI has moved to High Court that to list the 2G review case as earlier. How do you see that? Do you find as hope that belongs to you?
See, I am not now very closely following the 2G case. I have been involved with many other things. I don't know exactly what is happening. I won't be able to answer.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prashant. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
உன்னெல்லாம் மண்டை மேல போட்டு அப்படியே கொல்லறோம்.
இவ்வளவு கோவக்காரன் நம்மளுக்கு தெரியாம போச்சே.
உன்னெல்லாம் பெத்த
தங்க நகை விற்று பணம் பெற மேக்ஸ் கோல்ட் கேஷ் ஃபார் கோல்ட் கான்டாக்ட் 044 4545 4545 லிங்க் இன் டிஸ்கிரிப்ஷன்.